Hi, everyone. Sorry to be a few minutes late. I actually thought this meeting was in person, and I had to scramble to get back to Zoom. Strange new world. So I want to welcome everyone to this session. I'm Vasant Dhar. I'm the co-director of the PhD program in data science. And I'll just talk for a few minutes and then just open it up for questions. See, take it as it goes. So, if we were doing this in person, the question I would start off with is, what is data science anyway? You've applied to this program, and how do you, how do we define the field? Um, uh, since we're doing this virtually, I'll just, tell you that, you can look up Wikipedia. There's all kinds of definitions of data science, but I think it's important to understand that this is a new area. And that NYU as a university decided to sort of go all into it about 10 years ago. We just felt that this was a new area of inquiry that integrated data, that is data from domains and methods in a creative kind of way. And that's, how I view sort of data science as well. It's sort of it's the study of the systematic extraction of knowledge from data, right? Broadly speaking is the way I look at it. But what makes it particularly interesting is the very broad canvas that it provides as an area for inquiry. So in this picture, I've drawn methods as rows and domains as columns. And inquiry typically occurs in one or more of these rectangle, right? You either have a domain that guides you, or you're interested in methods, or both. And so the progress can be both in terms of methods and in terms of answering specific questions about a domain. So you could if you, let's say, solve Alzheimer's, well, that's a big problem, right? That's a big problem to solve, and there may not be any methodological innovation in doing that. You may just sort of apply data science methods and solve Alzheimer's. Well, that's a contribution to knowledge, but typically we expect some sort of a methodological contribution as well, right? So along the horizontal axis, generally there's some sort of methodological innovation required to answer a question that you're trying to answer, whether it's in healthcare or physics or business or law or whatever it is. There's some sort of innovation methodologically that also is a contribution, in addition to sort of answering the question, the domain-specific question that you might be interested in. By the way, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and interrupt. Otherwise, I'll just march on through the presentation. So I guess the one summary comment I want to make that I may have alluded to earlier is that what this does is it provides an incredibly rich landscape for inquiry. Essentially, everything is fair game, all kinds of domains and methods as well, right? So it's a really rich domain of inquiry that isn't constrained by sort of the prior, norms of a discipline, right? So one of the standard questions, one might get is, how is this different from a question from a PhD in computer science? Very relevant question. I'm not going to address that right now. I could during the information session, but that's in general, we're less hamstrung by the norms of disciplines, whether they're engineering or computer science. These are, in this slide, a bunch of research areas that you'll find at CDS. There's machine learning and perception, language, vision, etc. There's science and its application. There's a bunch of people that pursue theory for the sake of theory. We have data engineering and visualization, responsible data science, and a significant presence in the medical school track. So we have a significant presence in data science and healthcare. So these are some of the core research areas that you're going to encounter in data science at NYU. In terms of the requirements, there are 72 credits of coursework. That is 18 credits, 15 credits of core courses, and then 18 courses of rotations. Now, rotations are basically a way to help you hit the ground running in terms of research. You will work with faculty members of your choice. Now, there may be people who you're sort of going to work with in the long run, your advisor, or there could be other people as well. So you can split your rotations among multiple faculty. The idea here is to give you the opportunity to explore the range of things that faculty do in data science. And so you start doing that from day one, from the first semester, and that goes on till the end of the sixth semester, right? So that's sort of the 15 core credits, the 18 credits of rotation, which is pass-fail. The others are graded. And there's 39 credits of electives across a bunch of topics. There's a yearly review. This is a fairly comprehensive end-of-year review for all students, especially first-year students. There's also a teaching requirement that is recent. That is, by the end of your fourth year, you must have served as a section leader or instructor for 2 courses at the Center for Data Science. And then there's a comprehensive exam. This is at the end of the, Tina, what is it? The third semester? Correct me, or is it the first year?
It's by the fourth semester. It's by the second semester, actually, for the comprehensive exam.
The comprehensive is, okay, so that's by the end of your first year. I thought maybe it was the third semester. So by the end of your first year, you take the comprehensive exam, and then the depth qualifying exam the year after that, and of course, dissertation as the final requirement, right? So that's the overall requirements of the curriculum. If you come in with some of the core courses, you can waive out of them. There's a process for waiving out of courses if you've already taken the core courses in data science. All right, that's my part. If there's questions, happy to take them.
Thank you, Vasant. And you're participating in the faculty panel in a bit, right? So we can have all the questions after that. I know the attendees really want to get to the faculty panel and student panel, so I'm just going to quickly go through the admissions and application requirements. You can find much more detailed information on our website, but just as a reminder, the admissions requirements is that we welcome applications from candidates with relevant fields, undergraduate and graduate. We don't require any specific field. We do require that students have coursework or equivalent experience in calculus, probability, statistics, and programming. For the application requirements, which you can also find on our website, we require the TOEFL or IELTS for applicants who are not native English speakers or did not get a previous degree from an institution where the language of instruction is English. Your college transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, statement of academic purpose, and just to note, we do not require the GREs for PhD application this year. More information is available in a link, and we'll be sharing these slides out to all attendees later this week. So the fall 2023 online application is now open. It's on the Graduate School of Arts and Science webpage. The link is over there. Deadline is Monday, December 12th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. The PhD program is only available for fall admissions. We do not admit for spring semesters. So now I would like to welcome our CDS faculty for the panel. I'm going to leave the slide up as the faculty introduce themselves, and then I'll take it down once we start the questions. So I would like to ask the faculty panel to introduce yourself with your name, your title, and your background or research focus. If Vasant would like to start, we'll just go in alphabetical order by last name.
Sure. Hi, I'm Vasant Dhar. I'm at the Stern School of Business in the Department of Tech. As I mentioned earlier, I've been co-director of the PhD program in data science. My area of research is decision making, and within that, when we trust AI-based systems with decision making. I've done a lot of work in finance and a number of other areas, but that's sort of my core area. Has to do with decision making.
Chi.
Hi everyone. I'm Chi, and I'm new assistant professor of the current math and CDS. I mostly do machine learning, deep learning, and optimization. But my research is more focused on the theoretical side. I'm interested in designing some simple and computationally efficient algorithms for some general deep learning problems. And I'm hoping that my research being grounded in with the mathematical understanding can help us get some better on this, a deeper understanding about deep learning and machine learning in general.
Grace?
I'm Grace Lindsay. I'm a new assistant professor of psychology and data science. My background is in computational neuroscience and modeling neural activity. And I'm interested in using artificial neural networks to understand cognition and perception, things like visual attention and learning. And I'm also getting into some projects very separate related to computer vision for climate change.
Tal?
Yeah, I'm Linzen, assistant professor of linguistics and data science. My research has kind of two parts: the understanding human language learning and comprehension using computational simulations, and primarily using machine learning. And the other side of it is improving and better understanding the systems that we have for natural language processing and using the tools from linguistics and cognitive science.
Mengye?
Hi, I'm Mengye. I'm assistant professor of data science and computer science. I joined this year, so my background is in computer science. I got a PhD from University of Toronto and did industry experience in Uber and Google. So my research area is in machine learning, computer vision, and deep learning, and more specifically to enable human-like and agent-based machine intelligence for learning in the continual naturalistic environments.
Thank you, Mengye. So the first question I have is, when considering a PhD student, what kind of things are you looking for in the application?
Well, I'll start, and others can take over. Broadly speaking, we're looking to see whether someone is well prepared, to do a research, for a research career in data science. Well prepared can be a number of things, but we expect, people to be strong in terms of methods and also express clearly why they want to do a PhD in data science and what their area of inquiry is going to be and why it's important, right? So I think sort of clarity of thinking in terms of purpose, is important, and that shows up in your research statement, but also being prepared methodologically to, then be able to sort of answer those questions of interest. Anyone want to add to that, Tal?
Yeah, I think for me at least, I need to see that the student has spent a little bit of time thinking about the kinds of problems that they want to work on with me. So it's not enough for the student to be very smart and have a lot of background. There also needs to be fit with specific advisors in the program, and it's important to demonstrate that in your research statement.
I think maybe the rest of us don't have as much to say because we're early in the process of getting grad students. I can say what I think I'll be looking for. in terms of like hard skills, I think I do need to see evidence of knowing how to program, just because you can't, that's a lot to learn and a lot to, you can't know that you want to do with this kind of PhD if you don't have some programming experience. I think, yeah, being able to kind of discuss with enthusiasm and some level of knowledge the research direction that you want to go in, which is more less well-defined qualification, but it does seem like you need to have some sense of what you're getting yourself into and why you care about it to start a PhD.
Thank you for that. What do you find? I know some of you guys have not started reading applications for CDS yet, but generally speaking, for PhD student applicants, is there something that you find that applicants might undervalue or something that they might overvalue when compiling their application? What should they be paying attention to?
Well, I think you can never undervalue your personal statement, because that's the one chance you really have to express yourself, what you want to do, who you want to work with, and as Tal said, where the fit might be. So you can never underestimate that personal statement. I say this because I sometimes feel like people write that without giving that adequate thought, right? That their grades are great, the letters are great, and there isn't sufficient time spent on the personal statement. So I'd say that is worth every minute of it is worth spending time on the personal statement. We read that very carefully, and it's incredibly important. The quality of your letter writers is also extremely important. That what they say, and if you've actually got some headwind, sort of rather tailwind behind you, and you've already done some, gotten started on some area of inquiry, that's even better.
One thing that I think some participants overvalue is publications, but I think that really varies by advisor. But I don't think it's essential to have fancy publications when you apply. And for me, you do have to have some evidence in your application package that you know what doing research in machine learning or the kind of area that you're planning to work in, that you know what that's like. So maybe that can come from your letters or from a small kind of workshop paper that you wrote, but you don't need to have kind of an existing significant publication record when you apply.
Yeah, I want to also add something to that because I sometimes see in the resume that people have staffed with a lot of projects, sometimes even like 2 or 3 parallel in 3 months. That might not even be a positive thing. I think what's important is you have like the projects with the detailed content, what you have done, so that if we have an interview, you can explain to the detailed level what you have done so that we understand what you are thinking about the projects. So I think you put the most important and the most relevant projects in your resume, I think.
Thank you. So we have a question from attendees. One person asks, they have a neuroscience background. Does the lack of practical experience with machine learning, statistics, etc., impair chances of admission for the program? Are the courses addressed to quotations naive student, or do they already assume a master's level?
Tal, do you want to try and take that in lieu of Christina, who isn't here?
Maybe, so I was trying to, I think there were different parts to this question, and I was trying to find it on the list of questions, but I'm not sure that I can see it, just so I can read it and make sure that I understand what the question was.
I just lost it too. But I believe the
Yeah.
person has neuroscience background. They wanted to know if they didn't have any machine learning background, would that impair their application? That was their first question.
Impair is probably, yes. I mean, it's ideal if you have some experience doing the kind of research that you want to do in this program, and some evidence that you're able to take the math, the required math courses that we have in the program. I think it's a case-by-case type of thing. Basically, it's going to be easier for you to get in if you have good grades and mathematical courses that are at the level that we teach here.
I can speak, I guess the person said they have a neuroscience background, so representing neuroscience, if there was someone who was, seemingly well versed on the neuroscience side and wanted to learn data science skills to apply to neuroscience, I think I would consider taking them. But yeah, they would need to show some aptitude towards being able to learn the ML. I don't know the specifics of the coursework to know what kind of prerequisites you would really need to do well in the courses, though.
Well, so our machine learning required machine learning course starts from scratch, and it doesn't assume any machine learning knowledge, but you do need to be to have a background in, I guess, calculus, probability, the linear algebra, the kind of thing that you would need to be able to do well in this class.
And as Grace said earlier, some, demonstrated ability, practical sort of ability to program and to implement things. It's important to be able to implement ideas without being stuck or hampered methodologically. So all things being equal, I think, evidence of methods is always good, but it's not essential. If you have sort of the demonstrated ability to pick up that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Another attendee asked, since faculty are usually very busy, are there any pointers on how applicants can approach them prior to applying?
I don't think anyone's too busy to be approached prior to applying, but I think the trick is to approach faculty who you're interested in working with some sort of a focused statement that gets their attention. Right? So I don't think people are too busy to respond. People will respond from prospective PhD students. Just make the inquiry as focused as possible so you get their attention.
I think there was another question that got answered in the Q&A chat thing. That will it increase your chances of getting in if you contact faculty beforehand? And the answer was no to that. So it's not that you have to contact faculty, but if you have a specific question, yeah, you can ask a specific question. But as part of the application process, they have a chance to talk to faculty. So once you apply, you'll get a chance to talk as well.
Yeah, I agree with Grace. I actually I will maybe respond to emails that people send me, and my response will usually be, you should apply, and then we will discuss this during the application process, and that would usually be it. Unless someone has, so one question that is actually that comes up sometimes is when people are trying to decide which program to apply to, if it's data science or another program at NYU. And unfortunately, NYU only lets you apply to one PhD program. And that's sometimes hard to know without talking to existing faculty. But just sending me an email and informing me that you're planning to apply is not going to do you any good. I mean, or harm. Like it's just neither here nor there. Basically, I would only send faculty an email if the answer will affect the chances of you applying to the program. If you have a question about the program, that will determine whether you apply or not. But that's my take. I think Vasant probably has, it sounds like you have a different approach. So I guess it doesn't hurt to email faculty.
No, I don't think it hurts, but I think it potentially helps if you're focused and you know, can get their attention with respect to some specific you know, area of inquiry. Nothing wrong with that. But I agree with Tal that it doesn't really impact your chances of admission one way or the other, right? That's done, there's a standard sort of process that's followed there. So just talking to faculty members doesn't affect things either way.
There's a
But
question
but
about.
but it might help you craft a better statement, right? I mean, that may be the reason for getting in touch with the faculty member is to craft a better research statement, right? So in that sense, it can help.
Yeah, there was a question about how faculty advise your students. Do you meet with your students on a lab level and individual on a regularly or ad hoc basis?
I can take this one. So for me, I meet regularly with the PhD students, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the preference of the student. Usually meeting is like half an hour, but some could be 1 hour.
I would add to that this is not something that we decide on the program level. This is completely up to the individual group and faculty members. So I think there's going to be some variability in that across professors.
There's a number of questions from students in both sides of things, whether they should have a master's before they apply, or if they have a master's, would that be a positive or negative towards their applications? Does faculty have any thoughts on this?
That's a great question. You know, all things being equal, I'd say that it always helps to have a master's, but all things are not always equal. You know, we've taken several PhD students right from undergraduate programs. So it just depends on the degree to which we think people are prepared. And, you know, sometimes people are, you know, well prepared right out of a undergraduate program, and other times they're not. So it really depends. But like I said, I think all things being equal, a master's would certainly help.
On the administrative level, students who have a master's that's not in data science can transfer in individual courses. A master's in data science, you might be able to transfer in the entire master's, and that's to be discussed after you've been admitted with one of the administrators. Another question that has been repeated is what happens if a student fails a comprehensive exam or don't pass it. If you don't pass it after your second semester, you will be given another chance to pass it by your fourth semester and be put on academic probation during that time. I think this has been answered in other ways, but the question is, does the relevance of an undergraduate field a must? So the student has done, or this applicant has done a bachelor's in medicine previously, but have some years of research. Is that, do they qualify with those requirements, I guess? Some attendees have been asking if they have a different background than what their current research interests are. How does that affect their application?
Well, the first question I'm seeing, I don't think it rules you out. That is, you know, if you did a bachelor's in medicine, you know, it certainly doesn't rule you out. It just depends on, you know, what you want to do, and you know, all the other things that we've been talking about, right? Like how compelling is your research statement, how good a fit is it, right? So it depends on those kinds of things, but I wouldn't say that it rules you out with a bachelor's degree.
I would say, how do you know you want to do a PhD in this if there's nothing on your resume that's, in a related area? If you know you want to do a PhD in something, you probably have something that you could point to say, this is my experience with it, and that's how I got interested. And so you need to show that somehow.
Exactly, and this actually addresses the other question, which is any tips for people who are unsure if they want to do a PhD? And the answer is, well, you shouldn't be doing it if you're unsure. This is not something you want to go into if you're unsure, because you're committing a fair amount of time of your life, and it takes you in a certain direction. So you had better be absolutely clear that this is what you want to do.
There's a specific question from Mengye about whether Mengye is accepting new PhD students since his webpage doesn't reflect that. He just wanted to know because he's really interested in Mengye's research work on scaling forward gradient with local losses and using to do adversarial attack on CNN.
I will be looking at the applications. I don't know what the number of students I will be taking, but feel free to send me an email.
Thank you. So we're about out of time. Thank you everyone for attending this session. I'm gonna continue on with the student panel. Faculty are welcome to log off, and the faculty contact information, the web pages are online. So please take a look, and if the faculty research interests are in line with yours, apply please. So thank you. So let me share my screen. So we have 4 students joining us today, and Anthony, I'm sorry. Anthony is actually have back-to-back meetings. So I'm gonna start off by asking Anthony to introduce himself, his background before joining the PhD, his research interests, and which faculty he's working with. He has kindly said that he will share his email for any students who have further questions after the session.
Yeah. Thanks, Sina. Also, I don't have to leave at 45 anymore. So.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yes, but nonetheless, we'll go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony. I'm a second-year PhD student now. I'm from Canada. I did my undergraduate in neuroscience, actually, from McGill University, which is a school in Canada, and also got my master's in computer science from McGill. What was the next part? Oh, who I'm working with currently?
Who you're working with and your research interests working with them, I guess.
Cool, yeah. These days, I guess I work mostly on reinforcement learning, but I still look to neuroscience from time to time to see and kind of get general inspirations. And currently I'm working with Professors Ralph Fergus and Laurel Pinto.
Thank you, Anthony. Should we go down the line, alphabetical last name?
All right, I'll go ahead. Yeah, so I'm Sanyam Kapoor. I'm a third-year PhD student now. I previously did my undergrad back in India in computer science and spent a bit of year doing research in the industry and came back for a PhD. And right now I'm working with Andrew Wilson, and broadly my area of research is probabilistic machine learning, essentially scaling up those style of methods. Yeah.
Okay, I can go next. Hi, I'm Falaah. I'm a second-year PhD student. I did my undergrad back in India in electronics and communication engineering. And then I worked in the industry for a couple of years and then decided I wanted to do research. So now I work with Julia Stojanovic, we work on responsible data science, AI ethics, societal impacts of AI, that kind of stuff.
And then me, hi, I'm Danielle. So I'm a first year PhD student. I did my undergrad at Brown in engineering physics and then went to industry for a while and am now back doing a PhD. I'm working with Professor Kang Cho, and I'm working on NLP, currently interested in things around reasoning and question answering.
Thank you. So the first question I have is, prospective students regularly ask us, based on my background, X, Y, or Z, is this program appropriate for me? Thinking back to your experience, what was it that made you realize that the CDS program was appropriate for you?
Well, I guess I can quickly answer. So I also did my master's here, and I had interacted with a few faculty members. And CDS itself is a pretty diverse group of people in terms of what kinds of ideas they work on, what kind of big picture research fields they work on. So I think there's a lot of like interdisciplinary flavor going on here, and I think that is exciting. And for me, it just worked out because I had someone whose research I cared about. So yeah.
I guess I can. Oh, sorry, Dana.
Sure. So I guess for me, it was similarly the interest in the interdisciplinary aspect, but also there were just a bunch of professors that I would have been really happy to work with here. And so this seemed like a really clear choice.
Yeah, I'll third the diversity of professors. Like I come from kind of a mixed background, so I didn't see myself fully as either a neuroscientist or a computer scientist. But for me, the program gives me access to both and a bunch of other disciplines as well, which was great.
I just agree with everything. We can go to the next question.
Got it. So since this came up during the faculty panel, did you already have papers published or done research before applying to the PhD program? Do you think research experience is required prior to applying?
So I had done research before. I had a workshop paper, but I think separately from research being required before applying, I think choosing to spend 5 years doing something that's very frustrating and challenging without having had some practice doing it before and being sure that you want to do it is probably a bad idea. And so I think it's important for you personally to have done some type of research before to just be sure you're interested.
Yeah, I want to add to that. And exactly like what Daniel's saying, I think there's a difference between research experience and like demonstrated research experience, where like people think you need to have papers to show the fact that you have research experience. So like for me, I was doing research in the industry, and this was on like the security end where you can't publish your results because the whole point is that you're building a secure system, right? So I think the difference between having done research, knowing what it is, knowing whether you like it, and then having like publications is different. And I don't think faculty care as much about having X papers at X venues as opposed to you having shown the fact that you know how you have this muscle that's built up.
Someone asked us in the Q&A, for the ones that came from industry, how was the transition to the academic field? Do you think that will damage your application?
So I guess I can start with that. So in my particular case, the only reason I went to industry was to do research in the same area. And so it sort of was a natural course of action for me before applying to the PhD. I'm not sure if I can convincingly answer whether someone who's worked on separate topics in the industry and then come back for a PhD, whether that's helpful or not. But I do know that it is generally appreciated that you've had experience in the industry, because then you really want to come back to school, because it's hard to come back to school after many, many years in the industry. It's a different vibe. So yeah, it
So
might
I guess
be a positive thing. Yeah.
So I guess for me, I started out as a software engineer for a few years and then moved to being like a research engineer who did mainly research. And I definitely, but I'm only in my first year. So I have limited knowledge about how each of these things like contributes to my ability to perform in a PhD. But I guess I definitely felt like the software engineering helped a lot in doing research as a research engineer. And I think that like in general, I don't know, like having a job working in industry and just kind of like learning how to manage that aspect is, I think, an underappreciated set of like skills and knowledge to be able to just like, I don't know, do a job, do work. So from my perspective, it's helpful.
A follow-up question, for the ones who have research experience in the industry, how do you demonstrate your research when applying to a PhD?
You can always talk about projects, right? So like for me, for example, I didn't have papers, but we had like patents on some of the stuff that we designed, so that you can always talk about. You can, and so I think one nice thing, I think also what Sanyam was talking to, is that once you work in the industry, you have like your perspective on like fundamental questions is a little bit different, because you know how much it gets abstracted away when you're actually building stuff. And I think just speaking to that in your personal statement is a lot. So even just, I wanted to answer a little bit to the previous question, which was, does this help? So there's a range of interests even amongst the faculty, even in terms of like applied to theoretical. There are a lot of professors who want to build out these systems, right? Even from a research perspective, but they want tools that actually work. And so coming from that background is more helpful if you want to work with those kind of professors. And so there's always a match that you will also make there in choosing who you want to work with. And then they would also probably want to work with you. Yeah.
Did any of you know your research preference before applying? Specifically, did you have a topic in mind before applying, and did it change after you started the program?
Yeah, maybe I can. So I started doing research in reinforcement learning, and I eventually moved on from reinforcement learning to like the broader domain of probabilistic machine learning. And so yeah, that was a switch that I made, but I also made that switch in the industry. But then in the industry, I was actually working at the intersection of both these domains. And now eventually I finally decided that I do not want to work in reinforcement learning for a bit. So yeah, I think people can change their directions and things can evolve. And most of these evolutions are pretty ad hoc, as long as you have some sense as to, like no one will stop you from changing directions, as long as you have an idea where do you want to go next. So yeah.
Someone asked us, how did you go about picking a professor if there was a number of topics that interest you?
I think one thing that's really worthwhile is trying to talk to professor students because like a big aspect of your interaction with the professor is the topic and the research, but also a very large aspect is your ability to interact with them and them being a good fit for you and vice versa. And I think that you get a better sense of that when you talk to the students before pursuing or as you pursue a professor. Yeah.
I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a rotation possibility of the program. So if you're interested in multiple people in the same program, like in the CDS program, you can probably work out some kind of thing to work with work with them sequentially and then figure it out that way.
That's correct. You start out with an advisor, but you have the research rotations that the faculty had spoken about. You're required to take 18 credits of that. So during that, you can speak to your advisor about which faculty you should do research rotations with, and you can explore your interests through that way. Thank you, Anthony. see. Attendee asked if you can talk about your goals after PhD and how this program is helping you achieve them. It's a bit early for Danielle, I think, as a first year student, but maybe one of the other students.
It's a very weird question. I'm just going to answer it very honestly, which is my goals of doing the PhD was to do interesting work in an area that I care about, and I'm getting to do that. And it's just the second year, so we'll see where that goes. But like that was my goal, and you're doing it with people who are like at the cutting edge of this technology, who actually built all of these like these things out, and you're doing it in like the best environment possible. So to me, it's moving me towards my goal.
Wait, was it goal for after the PhD or for, okay. Yeah, I guess even as a second year, it feels a little bit early. I guess I will say I'm open to, I think when I came in, yeah, I think I'm open to both academia and industry, but I think I would like to do research as a career in the area that I'm currently working on. So whichever opportunity is down the road for that.
So someone asked us, what is life like as a PhD student at CDS?
It's answering a panel on a Wednesday. I actually think it changes a lot across the years, right? So maybe we can actually cover the whole span. It's like maybe Danielle can start because we can actually walk through like 3 years of a PhD.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess I'm a month and a half in. Right now, life seems to be trying to figure out how to balance courses and doing research. And so like right now I'm taking 2 courses, probability and statistics and intro to data science. And they vary in terms of midterms and exams versus like major projects. But then there's also the question of like, what type of research do I want to be like implementing and trying to iterate on some ideas versus like how much time do I want to spend thinking about kind of like the broader topics that I would want to do in my PhD. So I think that that's kind of like the balancing act that I am doing now.
Okay, so I'm in my second year, and so that was exactly my experience in my first year. And I think from your first year, you have like projects that you start off doing slowly, or you like join on to existing projects. But then in your second year, the coursework sort of reduces a little bit, and you start pivoting towards more research, which is where I'm at. And so you have like either a paper in the works or like under submission or polishing up a paper. But like now you really feel that like your compulsory courses are getting over, you can actually pivot all the way to fully doing research full time. But I do see the value in taking those courses early because it's sort of refined the way I was framing these questions. So I do understand why the first year is so hectic in terms of like courses, but it's also nice that you can pivot back towards research now.
Yeah, I think I'm in a very similar stage to Falaah. Just feel like I'm ramping up on research now. The coursework is mostly behind me.
I think life in a PhD is basically a lot of deadlines. I have one deadline today, one tomorrow. but that aside, I think most days in a PhD student's life won't feel like you've made progress because you're just banging your head against the wall. So you need to be just accept that, and there will be moments of like, I don't know, enlightenment or something, but most days will just be struggling with an idea or you're something in the code or stuff like that. So you need to be comfortable with that idea for like forever, I guess now.
Well, speaking of deadlines and with respect for your times, I'll take this last question since it's specific to student applications. In your statement of purpose, did you state the professor you wanted to work with? Also in your statement of purpose, did you have to write about what you wanted to do in your research or you kept it general?
No, I was very specific because I knew who I wanted to work with and I tailored exactly what. So one way to frame this is to go read their papers in the last couple of years and see where they're also heading towards and where you want to where you want to do research towards. So like my SOP was very geared towards a couple of professors and what I would want to do with them.
So I would say that you should never write a generic SOP. Just always, you should write your SOP with one big idea. Doesn't matter if you really pursue that, but it just shows that you've thought this through. That's my preference. Like it could be like, here is a big picture problem, here's a high stakes problem, here is what's currently happening in this area, and here's how I think it should be done next. That sort of a flavor.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you everyone for joining us. I am just going to share my last slide here. So if we didn't get to any questions, please look over our website. We have our FAQ page. The graduate school also have the FAQ page on application and admissions requirements. And then if you still have unanswered questions, please reach out to us. Our email is there, cds-admissions@nyu.edu. We'll be posting these slides and also sharing the recording on the CDS website. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.